All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. And what is today's topic? I'm going to do another wood turning here. So what I did is I took a Forestner bit and I went down a little bit because that'll enable me to use my spur drive here. Now you don't have to do this. I mean, I've seen people just pound it into the wood. I do it. It just seems to work good for me. So this is what I do. I'm going to mount it up, bring the tailstock up, and I'll be back with you in a sec. Okay, I got it all mounted up. I got my tool rest position the way I want it. The tailstock is there. I've tightened the tailstock up. And I'm going to use a gouge to start off with, and I'll get this round, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so where I'm at right now is I created a tenon on both ends, here and one over here. So they'll fit into my jaws fine. I had to take down a bunch of wood here. It had a really bad deep crack, so I wanted to get rid of that. For safety reasons also, I think it looks better without the crack. I could have filled it with epoxy or CA glue and played around, but I just wanted to get rid of it. So from here up, we'll make a box. So now I start to plan out what I want to do. And this is all good wood in through here. Got a little bit of a kind of a knot thing going on there. I could use this end for the lid, which is what I'll do, and I'll stay above this area right here just to give it some character and hopefully not run into any problems. So make a mark there. Yeah, that should do it. And we'll make kind of a box out of this with a lid today. So I'm going to take a parting tool right now. Okay, so I went ahead and I mounted it into the jaws of the chuck here. And I got a nice tight fit between the face of the jaw and the face of the wood. You don't want any big air gaps. I slide it in here, I bring the tailstock up to here, I tighten it, I give it a couple of turns to sink it in. This is still loose. Then I turn around and I start to tighten this up. And I go around this multiple times, because the wood actually will kind of condense a little and each side of the jaws can actually loosen a little bit. So safety reasons, I tighten the heck out of this now. I leave this in place for now. There's my knot area right here. Give it a little decoration, hopefully. And now you got to decide on how you want the form. If you're going to just make a square box like this, yeah, it's okay. I can't really, or I don't really want to do that because I would be wasting a lot of this, but I might. It depends on what the lady wants. I have a friend that wants me to make her a box, so this is what I'm going to use. So I might end it right here because this is where the yellow stops. Wouldn't look too bad if I ended it right in here. So I'm going to play around and let's see what happens here. I got my carbide tool. I'm going to square this up again now. Yeah, I've got it running down here. It actually comes down a little bit more into here. Still wouldn't look bad if it stopped there. This is all okay. Yeah, so I think we'll make it kind of square. I might taper the bottom a little bit. I'll decide. But anyway, I'm going to shape this and I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back. And this is about the shape I'm going to have it. It comes in just a little bit, but it should be a nice kind of wood box. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drill a hole right in the center of this to the depth that I want. Now, I went like this, and I know that if I go to that point, it'll be to here. So let me drill this hole real quick. All right, there it is. There's the hole. So now I'm going to use my indexing tool to start carving out a lot of this. And what that looks like is right here. It's got a 3/16 kind of bullnose tip on there, and I use it off my tool rest, and this goes real smooth. Okay, so after the index tool, what I used is I have a carbide cutter here, and I just came right along the wall here all the way down, cleaned up the bottom and transitioned it, and it looks nice. Let me show you. Okay, then I can reach in there with 80 grit or 60 or whatever I need and clean it all up. Okay, now the next step is we're done with this for the moment. Take it off and set it to the side. I'm going to put the other little one on there. This is where it's going to be the lid. Okay, now the first part of this is really important, that you get the lid to fit snugly. You don't have to have that suction cup kind of fit to it, but you want it to fit as snug as you can. You can use the Pittsburgh ones from Harbor Freight, the calipers, or you can buy them online. If you get the ones at Harbor Freight, make sure you close them, turn it on, hit the 0 button, and make sure it zeros, okay? Just a little tip for you before you walk out of the store. But anyway, we turn around. All right, make sure I got my internal diameter, and then I tighten the little set screw. Now I know that I need to make that opening fit there. So what I'm going to do now is I'll use my carbide tool, the square tip. I'll bring this down slowly, go very slowly, because even a little bit can be too much. So like right now, we already have our caliper set. I didn't cut very far. When I came down, still got a little ways to go. Yeah. Okay, there it is. It's right on there. So I'm going to take a super light cut after I drench this. Super light. That looks good, probably 220 or something. I mean, that's really clean. And it's sitting right on there, so we're good. Okay, so we've got this to where we want it. I'll shape this later, but I'm going to do some hollowing here. So bring this around, bring it up just a little bit above center, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so with the bullnose scraper, I created like this dishing effect right here, and then I looked at it, and I can get away with 120, 150. I'll sand this real quick here, spray some of this mineral spirits on there just to see. Yeah, see, that'll look good right there. Okay, so what I do at this point, I can do a lot of this when the project's done. I'm sitting at my finishing table. But like right now, I mean, if you wanted to, you could put some boiled linseed oil or boiled linseed oil, mineral spirits, mix. Like I told you, I cut it 3/4 boiled linseed oil, 1/4 mineral spirits, shake it up, put it on here, and you get much deeper penetration. So you could do it now, or you could do it later. In this case, we'll do it later because I want to keep the project moving. So I can take the lid off now. I can remount the project that we were doing. Put this back on there. Okay, so let's see what we got. It's not too bad, but you can see it is a little out of balance. But this is your time, and you can go slow. I see guys go real fast, like I said, so I can see in through here where I still got some of that choppiness, but I got a lot of it out. But that, I'm going to use the sanding pad and paper, and it'll even all of this out. I got it close enough. Still see here, I got a fairly tight lip on there. So see if we can take that down a little bit without destroying the project. Okay, that's close enough because that will finish out nicely with the sandpaper and the sanding pad. So now I'm going to work on up in here. Now one thing I'll tell you that I made, it's a Badan tool. It's a straight edge with a sharp angle right here where you can reach in there. Works good on smaller projects and stuff. I'm not going to use it on this one, but I wanted to show you. You can take an inexpensive turning set and regrind these tools and make them into something special, maybe that fits your needs. All right. Anyway. Now remember, we hollowed this in here, so don't go crazy. But I want to make a round top. And this will come off, so it's like, okay, it's fitting a little loose. First thing I can do is I can put a paper towel in here. That's pretty tight, okay? So I'm going to tear off a lot of this, most of it. Now, I tap it on there. Use a non-resilient kind of a hammer, wherever it went. That's around here somewhere. Okay, that is a nice, super tight feel, but I want to be on the safe side. I usually got wider tape. Get yourself a good quality tape, and because what I want to work on is right here, and when I'm done, then we can sand and we'll be safe because it will hold the paper towel, hold it on there tight enough. But the torque here, when I go to do this, sometimes it can grab and just things will just fly off at you. So I'm going to use that bullnose tool, see what we can do. I want to be above center with it. You can see this is on there good and tight, so we'll be able to sand easily without worrying about anything flying off. There's my flexible sanding disc, and I'm going to start off with 60 grit down here. There's a bad tear out right in here. This is dry wood, so okay, and then I'll work my way up through the grits. Let me show you the table. Okay, that's how I'm going to do it, and then I will be back with you. But for right now, we need to work on, with the 60 grit and the 80 grit, it's like getting rid of the bad tear out and doing some final shaping. Then once you get past the 80 grit and into the other grits, then it's all about, you know, making this as clean and perfect of a surface as you can, because like I keep telling you, the difference between a mediocre finish and an outstanding finish is spending a little bit more time. All right, I'll be back with you in a bit. Okay, so I finished the sanding and I went up to 500 grit. I was going to go higher, and then I thought, well, you know what? We might try something different this time and put like a lacquer finish on this. So I went ahead and stopped, like I said, about the 500. Now I use mineral spirits and a rag, clean rag, and I wipe this off real good now. There you go. Let that dry for a minute, and we're going to put sanding sealer on it. Now I don't want the lid to stick like you saw in the last video, so we're going to loosen this up. All right, that worked, and I didn't dent the wood, so I'm going to loosen this up now. Let's try it without the cloth in here. It needs the cloth. Okay, that should work. Okay, so now we're going to put 2 coats of sanding sealer. Now the first coat is going to dry real fast, so maybe 30 minutes, and you can come back to it. Okay, I put the 2 coats of sanding sealer on and I've wiped it down real good. Now we're ready to do the spray lacquer. And what I use is this little Badger spray gun. It's a single action. It works real good. Now I put easier. You're going to have to do multiple coats, but it works really well this way. I'll show you. And don't go overboard because you can put on multiple coats. You put on too much, you'll start to get runs. Find a starting point, and I overlap about 50%. Okay, leave it alone and let it dry. It'll dry quick. And don't worry about imperfections or like one missed spot or a couple. You can always cover those back up. So I'm going to leave this alone, let it dry. I'll be back with you in just a little bit. Nice thing about lacquer is multiple coats is okay because each additional spray that I put on there will burn into the previous one. So, all right, I'll be back with you here shortly. Okay, about 30-45 minutes has gone by and it's fairly dry, so I'm going to put on a second coat here. Find a starting point. I'm about 6 inches away. Pressure set a little above 20. I think it's around 22, maybe 23. And you'll see I'm kind of out right now. So I'm going to refill this. This is the second coat. And I'm in a very calm environment, so it'll pick up the minimum amount of nibs and dust. I'll be back with you. Okay, time's gone by and it's got 2 coats on there now. So we're going to go ahead and put the third one on now. I don't need to scuff it or denib it or anything because it's nice and smooth. And I have it inside of an area where there's no wind. I mean, there's nothing to stir up any dust. And, you know, I cleaned off around here best I could. So this helps because then I don't need to steel wool this. But if you got a bunch of nibs, you can take 4/0 steel wool or you can take the gray, but if you do have a bunch of nibs, you can take either the gray Scotch-Brite, which is 400 to 600 grit, or the very fine steel wool, the 4/0, and you can lightly go over that lacquer and denib it, clean it real good, and then shoot your next coat. Okay, so we're on to the third coat. You should be in a well-ventilated area. I mean, you don't want to breathe the fumes and stuff, so be careful. And then I'm going to show you how to clean up this little Badger very fast and easy. And it actually works wonderful as a nice little spraying tool. Like I said, single action. It's inexpensive. I'll leave you the links below. Okay, find that starting point. About 6 inches away, overlapping, about 50%. Now I'll meet you over at the finishing table and we'll talk about cleaning up this little Badger spray gun. Okay, I'm not going to take this apart and clean it yet because I still have lacquer in here, and I'm going to put another 1, 2, maybe 3 coats on that box project. Now, people say that you got to finish the finish, meaning you have to finish that lacquer. Well, I'm not going to go through all of that because if you keep your environment clean and there's not any wind or anything, you're going to get very little like sediment stuff like on it, and you know, you're not going to have to denib it that much. And this is clear gloss, and it turns out to be pretty just the way that it is. So I don't do finish the finish, you know, kind of stuff. So anyway, that's how I apply that lacquer. Then I'll take it off of there, and then on the bottom, I mean, you can easily do that yourself. I mean, just a small area, you can just dip, you know, like a rag or something, and swipe the bottom, steel wool it a little bit, do it 2 or 3 times. You can build up the coats real quick because you're dealing with such a small area, and lacquer does set up quick. Now, lacquer will dry to touch very quickly. Even by tomorrow morning, I'll put the other coats on, by this evening before I go to bed. In the morning, it'll be dried to touch, but that finish is not set yet. So I give it a period of days before I start to part it off and do anything with it to give it a chance to kind of get a little bit more hardened. Okay, and remember, each coat of lacquer, the nice thing about lacquer is one coat burns into the other, and you're able to build up a bunch of coats if that's what you want to do. I keep rotating the piece, looking at it, and then I decide when I think it's had enough. And like I said, I let it sit and I let it like stiffen up real good, like 3-4 days maybe, something like that. Okay, so back to the gun. I take the jar apart, I have a tub, and I put in here lacquer thinner. Then I have a brush, I put it in there, and I dump this in there, including the top piece, and I scrub it all down, even inside, and I wash it all around in the lacquer thinner. Then that little tube in there, I stick it into the lacquer thinner, and I point the nose down into it, turn it away so you don't breathe the fumes, hit the trigger, and that will suck the lacquer thinner up through that siphon straw. It'll clean all of this out, and you've already scrubbed it all off. There you go, and you'll clean this all up, and the jar is nice and clean. And you put it back together, put it away, and you're ready for the next project. Now, if something gets gummed up in here and it's not spraying right, get a needle, and you can go up and down through that little orifice right here, and you can clean that out. And it only goes to about right here because the tube attaches. So it's very easy to clean out, even if you're working on a project and it starts to sputter and it's not spraying right. You can take this apart, dip the straw into the lacquer thinner, hit the trigger, see if that clears it. If not, use the needle and go up and down. Spray pattern. Right here is a little spring-loaded way that you can actually set the pattern. You can tighten it down or you can open it up. You shoot a bigger pattern or a much narrower pattern. Once you have this set and you're spraying it on a piece of cardboard or something, you'll get a feel for how you want it. Then I pretty much just leave it set that way. Again, this is the Badger. It's really handy. I think it's a great tool. It may even be on sale right now. I'll leave you the links in the description below, but you should check it out. You're gonna have to buy the hose here, of course. It doesn't come, well, I think one of the kits does come with the hose actually. I'll take a look. The link will be below, but if not, you'll have to get the hose, of course. And then what else do you think about after that? Okay, this hose will attach to an air hose that I have, and it has inline filter. Okay, inline filter, because you don't want any contaminants or moisture condensation from inside of the air hose coming through and getting into your finish, and it just creates a mess, and you get these little fish eyes and all kinds of things that go on. So you want the air coming through here to be as absolute clean as possible. So for this, now my setup's different. I have it piped over to a big canister filter, and then from the canister filter it even goes through an inline filter to this. You don't have to do that. You can just use an inline filter. They're very inexpensive and they work wonderfully, but buy a good quality inline filter. Don't buy the cheap junky ones from out at some of these stores, okay? I'll leave you the links below on what I use. They're the ones that I keep repeat buying because I know that the products and the filtration inside of those inline filters is made of a superior material, and they work great. Okay, that's how you clean this. This is a really handy little tool to have. I would encourage you to at least click on the link and check it out for yourself. And it's very easy to keep clean, and you'll have a lot of fun with it. It doesn't have to be lacquer that you're spraying. If you want to spray something else through here, polyurethanes, or I don't know, whatever else you're working on, there are lots of things you can spray through this. I mean, spray whatever you want as long as it's thin. Or you're going to have to really crank that pressure up, and sometimes when it sprays, the spray pattern isn't what you want. So what I do with this in terms of lacquer, they say you cannot spray brushing lacquer. Well, yeah, you can. I use the Deft brushing lacquer. However, although they say that you can't spray it, Like in this bottle, I'll fill it up a little bit more than 3/4, then I add lacquer thinner to it and I mix it up inside of the container. It sprays perfectly fine. Just don't put in too much lacquer thinner. It gets too watery, but if you add a little bit, it thins it down a little bit where you get a really nice spray pattern. Overlap the 50% like I do, 6 inches or so away. You'll get a feel for it after a couple of times of using it, and it's really handy. And then you just don't touch it. And just remember, it dries to touch, but it takes a period of days or longer for it to truly set up. Okay, I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. I hope you keep following me. If you like these kind of projects and you like the kind of finishing techniques and things that I'm showing you, leave me a comment. I'll keep making them. We'll keep having fun. We do projects with wood stains, wood dyes. We use polyurethanes. We do wax finishes. We do Danish oil finishes. We do all kinds of different finishes. You see a table here. It's got a bunch of projects on here. Now, most all of these, yeah, they are. Okay, all of these have been done by just using the Zinsser seal coat. 2 to 3 coats of that, denib in between, okay, wipe it down, and then I use wipe-on poly, and I put on as many coats as I think that it takes to make it look good. And wipe-on poly, it becomes easy to use. It is what it is. It's a wipe-on polyurethane. So those are just some quick tips. Let me know what you like, what you want to know more of in the comments. I'll see you on the next video. You folks have a great day. Bye-bye.